For many years, more demanding PC users, especially those involved in gaming, looked longingly at the advantages brought by OLED TVs and wondered when will we see something like this in monitor format. By its very nature, OLED is a match made in heaven for gaming, as it offers an almost perfectly fast response, tens of times faster than the fastest LCD panel, and therefore a clearer display of fast content, which is very important when you want the best experience in competitive games. In addition, it also offers perfect black level and no backlight penetration, blooming and other problems characteristic of LCD. Of course, there are other advantages in the form of true 10-bit display, mathematically infinite contrast, and great potential for more accurate color display and wider color gamut. Practically almost ideal technology for monitors, but we waited a long time for its arrival in this segment for several reasons. The first is of course the price, because like all new technologies, OLED required a certain period for production costs to drop enough for it to make sense for monitors intended for end users. The second, and actually more problematic, was the longevity of OLED in specific use, where the monitor is often required to display static content all day long, such as the taskbar for example, or window frames, which carries with it the risk of burn-in effect or permanent etching of a certain image. As OLED technology matured, especially the LG one that has been on the market for the longest time and is practically the standard on big screens, last year the moment finally came when many manufacturers figured that it was time and decided to come out with their OLED monitors. In fact, the whole thing may have been pushed a little by Samsung with its QD OLED panels, so suddenly we had a solid number of models on the market based on two different technologies, WOLED and QD OLED, and by practically all the major brands. Among them, of course, is Acer, whose Predator X27U model we got to test. It is a model with specifications very reminiscent of the LG 27GR95QE that we tested before and considered practically the optimal monitor, with its 27-inch size, QHD resolution and a refresh rate of 240 Hz. Plus, the Acer model can be up to $100 cheaper in certain markets, so it looks really promising. But let's see how it works in practice. First, a few words about the design and build quality. Like many OLED-based display solutions, the Acer X27U takes advantage of this panel and the absence of backlight to achieve a very elegant appearance with a thin profile and screen bezels. As in most cases with OLED, the panel is inserted into a unibody metal profile that gives it the necessary strength and at the same time a premium look. There is an additional margin around the part of the screen that displays the image, and if you look closely you will notice that it is asymmetrical and slightly wider in certain places than the usual 5 to 6 mm. The reason for this is to leave enough room for the algorithm to move the image slightly to avoid burn-in. Of course, this shift is imperceptible in use, plus the monitor also features an image retention refresh option with the same goal. On the back of the panel there is also a chassis for electronics made of hard plastic with discrete details in the form of two surfaces of different textures and ventilation openings on the top and the sides. There are absolutely no markings on the panel and the back, which is unusual but makes the monitor look more elegant. Very commendable in our book. Functionality ahead of branding is something we don't see that often. After all, if you pay close to $900 for a monitor, chances are you'll remember it's an Acer Predator. If not, the only thing that will remind you when viewed from the front is the Predator logo located at the base of the stand. Speaking of which, a part of the stand that carries the panel is covered in plastic over a metal base and has a stylized shape that fits nicely into the overall design. On the back side there is a simple hook for routing the cables, while on the top there is an interesting 1/4-inch thread for mounting the camera, for example, something that will likely appeal to those with pro Twitch streaming ambitions. The base of the stand is made entirely of metal and is very elegant with thin edges and a triangular profile. The base is V-shaped with two prongs on the back for stability, and it takes up a fair amount of desk area, though with enough space between the feet for things like external sound cards, chips or whatever you're into. As for the ergonomics, the stand allows the panel to swivel left and right by 25 degrees, tilt down by 5 and up by 25 degrees, adjust the height in range of 15 cm, as well as pivot the panel by 90 degrees both ways. VESA mounting is also supported for those who want to use an arm or wall mount instead of a stand. As for the connectors, they are accessible from the bottom on the back, and for image transfer you will have two HDMI 2.0, one DisplayPort 1.4, as well as USB Type-C with DP Alt mode, which also supports powering connected devices with up to 90 watts. In addition to these, there is a 3.5mm output for headphones, a USB upstream port for connecting to a computer, and two USB 3.2 downstream ports for connecting peripherals, disks, and other USB devices. Below the front center edge of the panel there is a mini joystick for controlling the menu and adjusting the monitor options, which offers very intuitive control. If you connect the monitor to a computer via USB, you can also use the Acer Display Widget application within your operating system, in which you can select the display mode, adjust the image parameters, but also access more advanced options such as splitting the screen into different layouts, including custom, which is a more flexible option than the Windows 11 native implementation. Of course, gaming options are also included, so it is possible, for example, to assign a different display mode to each game or application, activate the crosshair display with adjustable color, position and design, or turn on the sniper mode that will enlarge the screen area around the crosshair by 1.5, 2 or 4 times to make it easier to target opponents in the distance. Some of these functions can also be assigned to shortcuts on the keyboard or the monitor joystick so that you can turn them on the fly during the game. Speaking of games, the QHD resolution and 27-inch size are probably the optimal choice for most users in this class, offering a good balance of practical usability and display detail. Especially if you have a powerful machine that can push over 200 frames per second in this resolution and allow you to take advantage of the high 240 Hz refresh rate. This refresh rate, combined with the almost instant response of the OLED panel, provides flawless clarity of fast-moving objects on the screen that you will not find on LCD models, even on the fastest 540 Hz model. As a result, the display in fast-action games is uncommonly clear and allows you to see everything more easily in the heat of battle, but also allows for less fatigue when playing for a long time. As for the input lag, it is excellent at maximum refresh, but is atypically high at 60 Hz for a gaming monitor. We measured it at around 20 milliseconds. It's not too high, but something to keep in mind if multiplayer gaming on consoles in games like Call of Duty is important to you. Of course, the PC gaming experience is exceptional, so this, along with the aforementioned LG model, is probably the best gaming monitor we've had the opportunity to try. Variable refresh rate is officially supported in the form of AMD FreeSync, and although it is not officially G-Sync compatible, the monitor also works great on NVIDIA graphics cards. When it comes to display quality, Acer Predator X27U has many advantages thanks to the OLED panel, but also a couple of not so strong points. First of all, we mentioned that it is an LG OLED panel, the same one we saw on the LG model with similar specifications. Like on that model, the text display, although quite good, is not quite ideal due to the fact that the display in Windows is not optimized for a panel with an extra white pixel and RWBG layout. Another thing that we also noticed on LG model is the uniformity, which, while better than on any LCD model in terms of brightness, has a visible pattern on a dark gray background, like a woven fabric, probably due to the way the panel is printed with organic diodes. Both of these things are no big deal, but are worth mentioning for the sake of users who may understandably expect perfection after paying not such a small price. Now let's get to the strengths of X27U. We have already mentioned the perfect black level and exceptional contrast that are characteristic of OLED panels, and the specific monitor is able to reach a maximum of 712.2 nits, providing an above-average impression in HDR content compared to LCD monitors, although not quite at the level of QD OLED models we've seen. The mentioned brightness was measured at about 10% coverage, while at 100% illumination the ABL limits the brightness to 220 nits. So a slightly lower maximum but higher minimum brightness compared to the LG model. In any case, solid and at the level of what we generally see on WOLED TVs. For those who would like to avoid a change in brightness when watching content with alternating bright and dark scenes, Acer has implemented a constant brightness option that you can activate, which will also limit the maximum brightness to 220 nits. Basically enough for those who would use the monitor primarily for work and in sRGB color gamut. Speaking of gamut, on this model, despite the identical 10-bit panel, we measured a much narrower color coverage of only 72.1% of the DCI-P3. We installed the drivers, tried everything we could think of, but the colorimeter didn't measure more than that, although the panel is undoubtedly capable of at least 20% more. Also, Acer states that this model is certified for color accuracy of delta E less than 1, which is a professional level of accuracy, but in our measurements the best result was only 3.6. With additional calibration, it is of course possible to achieve almost perfect accuracy, but be aware that straight out of the box it may not be exactly what it says on the calibration report that comes with the monitor. We will assume that the change in humidity and temperature during the transport from the factory to the customer probably has an impact. Although it is usually not an important thing for monitors, we should also mention that this model is equipped with two 5-watt speakers, which are useful if you don't have a better option at hand. The sound is not particularly loud, but quite enough for a normal working position. All in all, the Acer X27U is a very good monitor for gaming and more, which offers all the advantages that OLED technology has to offer. Its current price on Amazon is around $800, same as the LG model with an identical panel, but on many markets outside the US you may be able to save around $100. The Acer model has a more minimalistic design, which we may prefer, but there are also some compromises like lower maximum brightness and not quite as good color rendering straight out of the box. Depending on your local prices and the importance of these factors, you may be able to save a little and still get a top-level monitor, especially for gaming. Those were our impressions, but as always we would like to hear yours in the comments below. We hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please leave a like and consider subscribing to our channel for more tech content. You were watching Bench House, my name is Ivan, and I'll see you next time.